Hello, everyone. I didn't get to announce that I was going live, so I'm doing it on the fly. And that's partly because I looked at the astrology of the day and something really piqued my interest. Today, we have the square between the nodes, which is called the bendings. So we have the square between Venus and the north and south node. So I think that's kind of an interesting, if not slightly big deal. And so I wanted to come on and say something about it. Hey, I see some familiar folks. Crystal, Colette, Tiffany Greer. Hello, congratulations, Taya. So let me just, because I'm between sessions, so I'm going to be pretty brief. So what that means is that the north and south node are at an axis. So if the north node is in Aries, that means the south node immediately is going to be in Libra, exactly to the same degree. And Venus is square to that. Now, there's always a question, and just to recap, what's the north node and south node? They're intersection points between the orbit of the moon around the Earth and the imaginary orbit of the sun around the Earth. We astrologers have known for thousands of years that the sun does not go around the Earth, but we go with the idea that this is actually so. So anyway, with this imaginary points of the north and south node, Venus is at what we call the north bending. How you can tell is if we were to put the north node at the ascendant for it rising. And remember, it's not an actual visible point. But if the north node was at that axis, Venus would be below the horizon, meaning she would be in the northern hemisphere, because the bottom of the chart, and I know that's confusing for some people, the bottom of a chart is always the northern hemisphere, and then the top of the chart is the southern hemisphere. Now, that's the astronomy about it. But you guys are probably asking, like, yeah, okay, cool, what does it mean? It often signifies some measure of crisis or decision point that happens with Venusian things. Venusian things relate to how we experience beauty, how we experience relationship, how we experience more so art and creativity. It's also going to punch up, especially after a full moon, our emotions and how we feel connected. One of the nicknames I give for Venus is celestial oxytocin. So just like we have the actual hormone in the body that deals with the bonding, especially between mother and child, but it's also something that happens between individuals, especially after sex, where we have this sense of connection. So Venus as celestial oxytocin is experiencing a decision point, a pivot point, when she's between the nodes at what we call the bendings, and particularly at the north bending. So that means where something is being hatched and strengthened, putting more attachment into the physical world, more attachment into our materiality. And when I say materiality, I know that it's become popular in the modern sense to talk about Venus related to money. That is more of a modern astrology thing. I'm not going to say whether it's a good or bad thing or true or false thing, but it is more of a modern thing. For most of astrology's history, at least for the 2,000 years of its history, as we know it, Venus was never associated exactly with money. It was more associated maybe with luxury, with pleasure, but not money. So what it can mean, more so related to experiencing this on a collective sense, and especially if you have the north node or south node in Aries and Libra, is really feeling that you've come to a crisis point related to those Venusian things I mentioned, either beauty, how one deals with one's attractiveness or the attractiveness of others, or your sense of relationship and connection with others. And it becomes something to really ponder. Now, I've experienced this in my own life. And it's been interesting to think about how one experiences the aspect of attraction and relationship or lack thereof. And it may be something where, you're in a relationship, you haven't been sure about it, and you feel like you're coming toward a crisis point. And so it becomes important to evaluate, how do you have this sense of connection? Where do you need to feel boosted? And it may not be in that relationship. It may need to happen in another relationship, or, it's sometimes better to kind of, I would say, be alone, be willing to risk, having the courage, Aries, to step away from relationship, Libra, in order to kind of be more related to what you need, what feeds you, what nurtures you, which is the Venus in Cancer. So that's my take on looking at this crisis point. If you were born with Venus at your, at the nodes, at the bending, I would say this is where you're dealing with the blossoming of your own sense of beauty, a relationship to Venusian traits. Venusian traits are diplomacy, tact, manners, guile, believe it or not, charm, and charisma, where you may step into those things or feel that those things are bubbling up in you. It's interesting that of these 3 points, Aries, Libra, and Venus in Cancer, we're experiencing cardinality. So the need to make something happen, the need to push forward with particular things, those are going to be more pronounced to take some measure of action, especially related to relationship, but also your sense of self. So that's my take. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's easier and I guess clearer for me to do a live than just to do a reel. And actually, I enjoy connecting and seeing folks here. Hello, Shantae523. I see Richard Smoot has come in on it. Bonita Love. Anyone else? There's some of you I don't know by the names you use. Dana Marie. I wonder if it's the same Dana Marie I knew in Brooklyn. If so, hi. Yeah. Thank you all. And I will put this up as a reel. Talk to y'all later.